Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today's battle showcases Kroq Gar's Beastmen against SLAYER's Greenskins. The Beastmen are led by Malagor the Dark Omen, with Something Wicked This Way Comes, Unholy Power, Bestial Surge, Icons of Vilification, Devolve, Mantle of Kroq, and Arcane Conduit. Both Gorbulls have Slaughterer's Call, and the infantry line consists of 2 units of Ungor Spearmen Herd, 3 units of Gore Herd, and 3 units of Bestigor Herd. There's a fair spread of armor-piercing and non-armor-piercing units there to allow for a much wider line, so I think Kroq Gar was ready for an army mixing Black Orcs and Savage Orcs on the other side, with the Ungor Spearmen able to handle and pin large enemy units. Then we've got Centaurs with great weapons and 2 units of Warhounds with poison, alongside a unit of Chaos Spawn. Lots of poison in this army to cause stat damage to the opponent as the relatively large infantry contingent beats away at the infantry lines. Also hoping to shut down range support and artillery with the Hounds, most likely, while the Chaos Spawn bring not only poison and decent amounts of damage, but also some fear to the battlefield. A Night Goblin Warboss leads the Greenskins on Squigback with a potion of Foolhardiness, a potion of Toughness, Stand Your Ground, Waw, and Spider to Bad Moon. His Night Goblin Shaman brings Sneaky Stabbin', Itchy Nuisance, and a Scroll of Shielding, while both Goblin Big Bosses come in on Spiders. 4 units of Goblins, the Warlord's Boys, 2 units of Orc Biggins, and 2 units of Black Orcs form a very large infantry line, though it will have low morale across parts of it. The Rusty Errors will provide range support and armor sundering alongside the Warlord's Boys, who will do the same in melee, while the 4 units of Orc Boy Biggins will shut down enemy cavalry and large support, and then support the main engagement with rear and flanking charges. Alright, as always, we're going to start with a conversation about deployment, and it's relatively simple from both sides of the field, though the Beastmen do try something a little clever. Let's start with the Beastmen. We've got the Gore Herd forming either flank here with a strong center with the Bestigor Herd. Either flank also supported by the Ungor Spearmen Herd back here. Again, able to dive in if necessary, if there are any giants or something, for example, able to dive in and provide support, while also there to prevent any cavalry, surrounds, rear charges, flanking maneuvers, and pin that large enemy support down. We do also have either flank supported by a Gorbull apiece. They're obviously able to cause a serious amount of damage, while in the center we do have the Chaos Spawn as well as Malagor the Dark Omen, who's there more for magical support naturally. And here's where the cleverness sort of comes in. Both of these units of Chaos Warhounds with poison are tucked away in the woods. They're both hidden back here, alongside the Centaur with Grey Weapon. I think the intent was to keep them hidden, but unfortunately they're actually not hidden. So they are visible, but this makes for a less juicy target for any enemy cavalry when all you see is this one unit of Centaurs with great weapons. So a little bit of cheekiness there from the Beastmen. And at the same time, let's take a look at the Greenskins. Very interesting deployment here, sort of a gradient of strength. On the left flank, we have these 2 Goblins, as well as this 3rd unit of Goblins sort of covering the back here, while on the right flank, we've got these 2 units of Black Orcs up front, and another unit of Goblins at the back here. So again, weakest on this side, strongest on this side, and in the middle, we've got some interesting stuff going on. The Orc Biggins, who are anti-large, are taking up this central position, and they're actually supported by the Warlord's Boys, as well as the Rusty Errors all the way back here. So 2 armor-sundering units that are hidden, because they do have stock, will be able to reduce enemy armor quite heftily, and the Orc Biggins, who aren't armor-piercing, will get some serious support out of that. So, interesting placement there. I think that's the thinking. The Warlord's Boys will be supporting the Orc Biggins. The Rusty Errors, though, should have been placed a little differently, because obviously armor sundering will not stack. Now we also have the Goblin Big Bosses on either side here, able to provide support to the flanks, while the Night Goblin Warboss himself is in the middle here alongside his Night Goblin Shaman, able to dive in wherever necessary. And we do have on either flank, very wide apart really, the Orc Boar Boy Biggins on, again, either flank, able to come in for flanking maneuvers and, sort of provide hammer and anvil type support, being the hammers to the anvils. Now let's kick it off and let's see exactly how this battle breaks down. You'll see both sides being pretty aggressive, pushing forward right away. No need to stay back and relax. I think the Greenskins were hoping for an engagement anywhere along these lines over here so that the Orc Boar Boy Biggins could come in with some rear charges. And you'll see some interesting actual sort of management here in terms of how the lines engage. The Bestigor Herd are being sent up front to primarily target the Black Orcs and shut those guys down, because the Bestigor Herd are, of course, armor-piercing. They are heavily armored, though the Black Orcs are also armor-piercing. So I think that was intentional, obviously, to target those guys. But the Gore Herd, who are not armor-piercing, and would probably get beaten to a pulp by the Black Orcs pretty easily, are being sent in against the Orc Biggins here, because they're unarmored, or rather they have less armor, so as much armor-piercing damage isn't required. So interesting bit of management there, that as the army was moving forward, these guys are being sent in. It's very dangerous because, of course, as these gore herds sort of traverse the terrain, they will interrupt some of these charges. They will slow down the chaos spawn, for example, so a little risky here. And meanwhile, you'll see the charges do go down while the rusty arrows back there are opening shots right from the get-go into the Gorbel, reducing the armor and trying to shut the Gorbel down nice and early. It's a very threatening unit, of course, and at the same time you'll see the Greenskins sort of collapsing in on the Beastmen as they all charge in and sort of start to clump up a little bit as these gore herd are moving across the field. So interesting bit of management there, but a little risky given the timing. At the same time, you'll see the Orc Boarboy Biggins are really wide. So again, trying to stay safe from any potential surprises, maybe trying to get some scouting done. These guys might have been close enough to actually see if anything was hidden over here, and then planning to obviously come in from the rears. And meanwhile, you'll see these goblins very free from those initial engagements, very free from initial charges, now able to come in from the sides, get some flanking maneuvers done. So well played there, trying to get them to cause morale damage on this right flank here. And you'll see the Gorbel there taking a lot of damage as well as it engages with the Goblin Big Boss. And over here you'll see the Ungor Spearman herd being sent around to engage this unit of goblins as well. Meanwhile, in the center we do have Itchy Nuisance going down, trying to reduce the effectiveness of all these Beastmen units, while at the same time the Beastmen are responding with Devolve, shutting down this right flank as quickly as possible. You see these Orc Biggins, the Warlord's Boys, the Night Goblin Warboss, a lot of these units being hit by Devolve, and they will take a decent amount of damage. Devolve has been strengthened once again, and obviously the leadership damage is also going to do a nice bit of work. As you can see, these Orc Biggins here already beginning to reconsider the engagement here. Meanwhile, you'll see over here the Orc Biggins and the Black Orcs doing a decent amount of work. The Chaos Spawn are in a bit of a rough spot, but they do have support from the Mantle of Kroq, so a lot more help to their melee attack. Melee damage, weapon damage, sorry, has been increased significantly as well, but unfortunately their armor has been brought down to nil. On the one hand, that's extremely dangerous because these Orc Biggins who are anti-large are right there, but on the other hand, it's a clever move because there are these armor-piercing Black Orcs there anyway, and they are being supported by Sneaky Stab and giving them extra armor-piercing damage. So, interesting decision there. Kind of risky, but nice to see the Mantle of Gark getting some use on the battlefield. Meanwhile, you'll see these Ungor Spearmen herd are sort of charging in from the side, getting a bit of a rear charge into the Black Orcs, while the Goblins are responding with a side charge into the Ungor Spearmen herd. So, again, a little bit of risk-taking. It's always nice to see some risks being taken. Meanwhile, the Rusty Arrows here still firing into the Gorbel, and the Gorbel has taken a lot of hurt. Between the Night Goblin Warboss, the Goblin Big Boss, and maybe some of these Orc Biggins in there, alongside that ranged fire naturally, the Gorbel is having a tough time. It hasn't killed anything yet, and it's already below half of its hit points, so very nice targeting there, very well played by the Greenskins holding down the Gorbel. Meanwhile, on the other side, though, the Gorbel hasn't been hurt so much, but also isn't sending out too much pain either. The Black Orcs, though, on this left flank, as seen from the Beastmen perspective, have been taken care of, especially with that surrounding maneuver coming in from the Ungor Spearman herd, while the center also, the Orc Biggins are giving up, though the Black Orcs are willing to stay and fight. And at the right, it does really look like it's going the way of the Greenskins, despite that flank starting off as the weakest. Now, finally, the Orc Boarboy Biggins do come in with some rear charges, and take a look at how much work that does do. Sort of your classic hammer and anvil going on over here. You'll see these Black Orcs, this Bestigor herd takes a lot of damage to health and morale, and meanwhile, we've got this rear charge coming in as well. The Ungor Spearman herd over here, as well as the Gore herd over here, taking a lot of morale damage naturally. So you'll see them starting to collapse almost right away, and meanwhile, same thing going on in the center here, with these Orc Boarboy Biggins getting a decent surround, and finally, we have the Warhounds with poison and the Senegor with great weapons being pulled into action. Meanwhile, just really quickly here, Wa does go down on this side over here, just to make sure that as these Orc Boarboy Biggins come riding in, they have as much support as possible. With Wa, they're going to get much higher melee attacks, a lot more damage is going to go through, so really trying to crush this right flank, again from the Beastman perspective, trying to crush it as quickly as possible as this final Orc Boarboy Biggin charge does go in to these two Bestigor herd units. So great work there, very classic hammer and anvil movement, used to great effect. But now, as I mentioned, the Chaos Warhounds and the Senegor with great weapons are being sent in. And if these guys had been brought in and involved earlier, they would have been very easily shut down by all of the Orc Boarboy Biggins, because it's very easy to get us surrounded. But because they have the opportunity instead to get these rear charges in, look at how much morale damage they're doing to the Orc Boarboy Biggins here. These guys are isolated, the closest support is right here, and it's turning around to dive in, but they're kind of being held back by the Gore herd that they're riding through right now, the Chaos Spawn as well, sort of holding them in place, and the Senegor herd dive in as well, so get sort of a side slash rear charge into the second unit of Orc Boar Boy Biggins. So great timing there. And that unit of Orc Boar Boy Biggins, the first one that was actually charged into, already routing. So that patience has really paid off for the Beastmen, making sure that rather than just getting surrounded and completely shut down early on, the Orc Boar Boy Biggins now have to do a lot of work to pull out of these engagements and then go in chasing after the Centaur as well as the Chaos Warhounds there. So nice to see that. Unfortunately, though, at the same time, this Gorbel that was engaged on the right flank is on his way out. He's taken a lot of damage. He has barely any health left, so he is routing. While the other Gorbel is getting involved in a more central position here. Again, Gorbel are anti-large, so they can be used to shut down Orc Boar Boy Biggins. As we kick into full speed again, you'll see the Goblins back here sort of sticking in reserve, trying to keep the Rusty Airs safe, but unfortunately the Rusty Airs are obstructed, so they're not getting any damage through. Meanwhile, we have another Itchy Nuisance going down, trying to win this left flank here, while the Devolve is going down to try and win the right flank here. So great trade-off there in Magic. Again, with Devolve, you're trying to target high entity counts in units and trying to sort of cause as much damage as possible. So a lot of these Goblins are really juicy targets, as well as units like, the Warlord's Boys and things like that. So a lot of damage going through there, and now you'll see the Orc Boar Boy Biggins forced to sort of pull out and come around from this side here, doing a decent amount of work to the Centaur, especially under Itchy Nuisance. These guys aren't able to get a lot of damage out, so a lot of morale damage being taken by them without much going out, and a lot of, obviously, damage to health as well. But you'll see these Orc Boar Boy Biggins are being very quickly taken care of. Meanwhile, the Black Orcs here being pulled back into combat, while the Orc Biggins as well being brought in over here as well. And you'll see in the middle here, we're getting a lot of sort of trade-offs going on. Spite of the Bad Moon does go down, as well as Potion of Toughness. Potion of Toughness, good idea, trying to get health back. Spite of the Bad Mood, I think the idea there was to try and help these Goblins who have shields, try and help them stay safe from the Rusty Errors, potentially, because of that missile parry bonus. But unfortunately, parrying missiles only happens if the shots are coming from your front arc, which is most certainly not happening to these Goblins. They're eating shots from the rear, from the Rusty Errors. Now, once again, you'll see the Centaurs here were sort of pulled away and pushed back in for another charge. Good cycle charging going on there, but it would be nice to see them actually pull out and try and hit some of these, trying to hit the Rusty Errors, shut down that range support, because it is causing not only physical damage and armor sundering, but of course, morale damage as well. Meanwhile, in the center here, you'll see the Goblin Big Boss is now routing on his way out, and the Night Goblin War Boss as well in a very dangerous situation. The Potion of Toughness has been completely used up, and very quickly the morale is dropping. Takes a huge hit from the Gorbel there, and Malagor the Dark Omen as well, chasing him down, causing him to rout very quickly. And you'll see the Chaos Warhounds with Poison as well, now disengaging, pulling away alongside the Centaur with Great Weapon, who are in fact routing because they did get surrounded. And the Orc Boar Boy Biggins trying to dive in as well, trying to shut it all down. That left flank is seen from the Beastmen perspective. It's sort of hanging in the air. In fact, the entire line is hanging in the air right now, because a lot of these units are wavering. Many Greenskin units are routing, but some of these Best Core Herd are very close to routing as well. The Chaos Spawn very close to being taken care of too. And finally, we have an engagement with the Rusty Errors. Unfortunately, these Chaos Warhounds are largely taken care of already. They've eaten a lot of damage. Their morale is very low, and the Rusty Errors aren't terrible in melee, so they're actually able to hold off the Chaos Warhounds with poison, especially since the Rusty Errors do have poison damage of their own. But now the rest of the Beastmen army does come charging through, and you'll see the Gorbel decides to dive into these Rusty Errors and cause a decent amount of hurt. These guys are routing now. They've given up, but you'll see the rest of the Greenskin army has consolidated. They're willing to fight again. It would have been nice to actually see all of these Greenskin units pulled back to try and form up over here, because again, now it's absolutely essential to keep leadership up. A single charge, a single surround, a quick hit from something like the Gorbel can shatter most of these units in one fell swoop. So it's really important to really pull your units back. They're using the wrong brush there. Pull your units back, consolidate, form up again, and try to either surround your enemy or just hold the ground, as opposed to go in piecemeal as is happening right now. Good charge here by the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, though, I must say. Trying to come in from this side there, cause that morale damage, throw these guys around, but unfortunately the Chaos Spawn are there to absorb the charge, and with the Chaos Warhounds with poison in there to get some poison damage in there, the Orc Boar Boy Biggins are going to be in a tough spot. You'll see the Goblins go in as well. They have very low leadership, so not really the ideal situation for them to be in. Meanwhile, this unit of Gore Herd and this unit of Ungor Spearmen as well being pulled back. Centaur Herd as well being pulled back. And you'll see something really nice goes on here. Well, a couple of things. Let's slow it down for a second. The Orc Boar Boy Biggins are coming in, and the Ungor Spearmen Herd actually gets sent in to intercept, which is absolutely essential, because if that charge came in cleanly, that could have actually shattered all of these all of these Beastmen units. And at the same time, you'll see in the center here, we have Devolve going down again, shutting down some of these goblins, trying to scare them off before they actually dive in to engage, and the Chaos Warhounds here as well, diving in, getting a charge off. Again, the hope here is to completely shatter enough units from the Greenskins to cause a mass rout. That's what the plan is here, and you'll see again as these Orc Boar Boy Biggins are trying to charge through, you'll see the Gorbul here dives into the Goblin Big Boss here, and the Ungor Spearman herd actually intercept and try to shut down these Orc Boar Boy Biggins, ultimately resulting in a full shatter across the Greenskin army and a Pyrrhic victory for the Beastmen. Now, the Beastmen played very patiently with their cavalry in this battle, and that may have won them this game. The Greenskins were winning the central engagement quite heftily, I'd say, and because the Beastmen were heavily outnumbered when it came to cavalry, the Senegor herd had to be kept hidden so as not to get singled out early on. Now, obviously, Senegor herd can't hide, but keeping them isolated and in the distance there probably provided the perception that they weren't dangerous. Alternatively, it is possible that the terrain, the sort of undulation of the terrain, kept the Senegor herd hidden, which is why not a single Orc Boar Boy Biggin went chasing after them. Now, the Rusty Arrows should have been shut down sooner to reduce the amount of morale and health damage being done to the center, and right to the end, the battle could have swung either way, and it was interesting to see some relatively uncommon compositions go head-to-head. We don't see Malagor the Dark Omen very often, I don't think, and the War Boss as well in charge of the Greenskins is not a common sight. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, and keep submitting your battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to see some great battles from the community to highlight. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.